All right, welcome to the Internal Mobility Podcast, where we explore all the opportunities that we have in this giant company, right? The intention is that each of us understands all of the opportunity to grow our careers, and we're pretty big. Sometimes it's hard to know what's across the veil in another company somewhere. So this is first of many segments designed to give you the information you need on how you might want to grow your career. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Bob Lopes, who is our Chief Human Resources Officer for Randstad North America. Thanks, Bob, for being here today.
Thanks, Chris. I'm glad to be with you.
So, Bob, I know that you're passionate about a couple of things. Your Labradors, your family, your people that you invest your time in, and then Randstad, of course, and how we leverage our collective strength and our superpower of our people in order to continue market outperformance. So with that in mind, tell me, why was updating our internal mobility policy important to you?
You know, when the business case was being made, it was pretty straightforward. There were two data points that we looked at. One, the data was showing us, you know, historically, we had many people who were trying to find a new and different opportunity. Maybe it just wasn't the right fit where they were at. They were trying to find a new opportunity, and it was way too difficult for people to learn what was available, and not only just learn, but how do you actually get yourself moved from one position to another. And in some of these, and many of these folks were valuable assets to the organization, right? And we should make it easier for them to say. Second, and you know, when you look at survey data, whether it's coming from HR Policy Administration, SIA, wherever, it's very, very consistent that engagement scores for employees who experience internal mobility tend to be higher than the aggregate of the organization. So with those two data points, Chris, it became clear we needed to do something new and different.
So let's reduce the structure and allow people to find their home.
Transparency, right? Yep.
Beautiful. So I know you're a big picture guy, always thinking long term. Like if you fast forwarded like in the future, 12, 18 months, like what cultural shifts do you think we're going to have as an organization because of these changes?
First and foremost, I think, you know, as you think through the evolution, we as an organization, we have to get much more comfortable talking about people mobility, internal mobility, right? Like you said, we're the largest HR services organization. These are assets of Randstad, and it's a responsibility of all leaders, all people managers, to ensure strong movement and career development of our people. So we have to get comfortable talking about somebody moving on to a new group or a new position. And second, this really embodies what we've been talking about, you being at the center. We're empowering the you to have a little, I'm not gonna say a lot more control over your career in terms of making the moves that are smart for you and smart for Randstad as an organization. So when I look out 18 months from now, it just becomes part of our DNA, and we start celebrating people managers who are exporters of talent much more than we do today.
Yeah, I don't think anybody believes that they want to hang on to people and deny them those opportunities. But the value of our people from that hiring manager perspective, when they go and they're good, it hurts.
Right.
So what would you say to somebody that's uncomfortable with the changes we've made that make it easier for people to move around the organization?
It's all about open communication, talk, right? You gotta talk to your manager. You got to talk to potential mentors in the organization about what's best. As I think about this, it's as we start getting better at recognizing those talent exporters, everything else becomes much easier and will flow from there. The other thing too, right? I mean, we're also, stating that with part of these changes is if you export a talent to a different role, for you to fill that open vacancy, we're going to give priority as well too. So we're going to be doing things to ensure that you have continuity in terms of running your business.
Awesome. I'm sure that helps.
Yes.
So the first time that we met, you were my customer, and now you're my chief. So you've got some experience moving around the organization. Tell us about that.
Well, I have two quick experiences. I was, one of my prior lives prior to Randstad, I was at an organization for 15 years, and I had 5 different jobs in that organization, and it was a consulting firm. And the fact that those 15 years flew by, right? And so I personally have experienced what it means to, sometimes I was seeking a new role, other times the role sought me. But I always was doing something new and different every 2, 3, or 4 years. And it made that experience with that company a wonderful one. I've also experienced here at Randstad. I'm coming up on 8 years, and being in the CHRO role was my 4th opportunity. Some short-lived, some a little bit longer. Majority was running Randstad SourceRight in North America, but it always recharges the battery. So I believe in internal mobility, and it's been a big part of why I've had tenure with certain organizations as well as Randstad.
That's been my experience for sure. In 22 years with the company, I've never had the same job more than 2 or 3 years at a time. And it's really refreshing to keep solutioning on something new all of the time.
And take those experiences and build on it and continue to add even more value, right? So I'm with you. Yep.
Cool. So when you look back on the impact of the careers you've had here over 8 years with Randstad, is there anything that you point to where you're like, yeah, I'm really proud of that?
Yeah, I have a few, right? And because, and I've made this statement to people that I'm closer to, it's, you always think about what's your legacy going to be? And legacy is around how you help develop people, how you help people get promoted, move into new and different roles. And as when you kind of fast forward 20 years, you don't remember the scoreboards of how much revenue you had in a year, right? You remember those people experiences. So for me, there's one in particular. I was fortunate to run into this individual at President's Club last year, and it was somebody that had worked for me for a few years back in the Randstad SourceRight organization. And to see how she has grown and developed into a senior leader for the organization, it's something she doesn't know I probably take more pride in than anybody else. So, so that's one of the experiences I've had at Randstad. Yeah.
So that's kind of the vision, right? You pour into a person, you enable them to go somewhere else, and then you bump into them at President's Club while they're doing the same for everybody that's in their span in their current state.
Yeah.
I pay it forward.
And she moved from one part of the organization into RSR, so she was an example of internal mobility at that point in time. So,
right on.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, one final question.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. As you look back at your last week or 2-ish, what has been your favorite human forward experience?
That one is easy, and it was around 8:00 last night. And I'm not making up the story for purposes of the webcast, but I had an email exchange for somebody I just started recently mentoring. And I sent her an article that when I read it, and it was authored by another Randstad employee, which was the cool part of the whole thing. And I sent her the article, and I just thought of her through the entire reading of this article. And it was about personal development. And she wrote back to me 2 minutes later going, I just read this and I'm posting it on my LinkedIn profile. And I just felt like I had a human forward moment that the connection we've made in the last 3 weeks is so real and intimate in a way that we get each other. And that was my human forward moment at 8 o'clock last night.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. You've mentioned mentorship a couple of times. I would hope that anybody interested in internal mobility is closely connected through our BRGs and their mentorship programs. We've got so many opportunities here to get to know what happens and get insight and career guidance from somebody that's maybe completely out of your span, which clearly is having an impact on those folks that you're paired with, Bob.
Yes, you got it.
Well, thank you for taking some space to be with us and all of your efforts in getting us to a place where our people feel completely empowered to move throughout the organization. I personally appreciate your leadership and certainly your time today.
And I appreciate you. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you, Chris.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.